On Tuesday, 6th of May, people in Patcham Ward can vote in a by-election for a new councillor. I'm local democracy reporter Sarah Booker-Lewis, and I'm putting questions from the public to Conservative candidate Anne Meadows. So, why do you want to be a city councillor for Patcham, Anne?
Well, I am a Brightonian. I was born and brought up in Brighton, and I moved to Patcham about 20 years ago. And my children went to the local schools. I still live in the area. And I think that I can speak for those who live in the outer area of the city, like Patcham and Hollingbury ward. Hollingbury feels a very forgotten ward, and they feel like they have no voice at the moment, and I feel I can give them that.
And what do you think you will bring to this role?
I've been a councillor previously, so I have extensive knowledge about how the council works. It usually takes about 4 years for someone to get used to working their way around the council services. So I don't have that problem. I can hit the ground running. And I've been on housing committee, as you know, and I know the work that needs to be done to raise the quality of our own stock, to build new homes where appropriate, but also to tackle the hard issues like homelessness in the city. I feel that, you know, I've also done adult social care, and that's a forgotten area in some parts now, where it's merged with health. Some residents feel that they are forgotten as well because of their disabilities, hidden disabilities. I think it's a very high percentage in the city who have disability of some kind. So I would like to express their voice as well.
And what understanding do you have of the struggles children, young people, adults and or their families face because they have additional needs and or a disability?
Well, as I mentioned, I have done adult social care, but I have to say it was Conservative councillors who demanded answers when the home to school transport failed. And I believe it was reported in the Argus that the barrister's report into home to school transport failings showed that a change in culture at the council was required. I can help support the council to make sure that those sort of things don't go wrong again, because those children are our most vulnerable residents, and we need to be serving them right as well. And I'm a strong supporter of Badge, Brighton Access for Disabled Groups Everywhere, which was formed following the council's discriminatory transport policies earlier last year. And it was heartbreaking to see disabled residents from Patcham and Hollingbury put in the position of asking to use toilets in Madeira Drive as the current administration, you know, the Green and Labour coalition, stopped the use of disabled vehicles from parking on the seafront.
Okay. And to what extent do you support the trend of building more homes on busy, polluted roads and exposing more people to air pollution?
Well, we need more homes built. That is a fact in the city, but mostly on brownfield sites. But it's also about not overdeveloping those sites at the same time. We should not be building on our valuable urban fringe. That acts as a wildlife bridge to the South Downs. I know the Green and Labour support building on the urban fringe, which will increase traffic and pollution in areas like Patcham and Hollingbury, but statistically it is shown that there are more than enough brownfield sites available for housing to meet the city's housing targets without impacting on the urban fringe in Patcham and Hollingbury.
So what will you do to improve air quality?
Well, the ill-considered implementation of cycle lanes has made air quality worse by causing traffic to slow down to a crawl or stop. So they're churning out emissions, while at the same time, those cycle lanes haven't actually increased cycle usage. So I feel that there needs to be much more consultation when cycle lanes are put in. We need to be consulting thoroughly so that we take the residents with us. At the moment, that hasn't happened. I'm pleased that Brighton Hove Buses have introduced cleaner buses to Patcham and Hollingbury, and I hope to see more of those because that's the way forward. And in Patcham and Hollingbury, the Conservative councillors are driving a project to plant new wood. Total of 8,000 trees altogether is the target, but at the moment 2,000 have already been planted, which is a great start. So for me, the Conservatives have been the voice for conservation on the council, as the coalition of Green and Labour councillors have demonstrated they prioritise development over the environment on the urban fringe.
How do you think a park and ride scheme, as suggested by the Climate Assembly, could be implemented in Brighton and Hove?
Well, it has been tried before, has been looked at and studied previously, as you know, and Conservative councillors who were on the Climate Assembly members working group listened to residents in the ward who discussed a properly signposted and integrated park and ride scheme. As I said, it's not a new suggestion. However, the shortage of land has always been a sticking point. I believe it's worth investigating though, and we also need to work with other partners to find a suitable location. I'm not sure if the park and ride scheme will need the support of the Green and Labour coalition, but where they stand on the issue is not entirely clear.
What would you like to do to improve transport equality in the city for the 40% of households who do not have access to a car?
Well, transport inequality has risen. For example, the closure of Madeira Drive means that parking revenue that is used to subsidise the city's bus service has been lost. This could have implications on future services. So I support an integrated transport approach with proper consultation, which will, and that means proper consultation with all residents as well as just bike groups, which will allow for all types of transport users to coexist peacefully in the city. We know there are issues around getting around the city. For example, the buses don't always go where you need them to go. They crisscross the city. But for example, someone on the north end of Brighton can't access the hospital without catching two buses. So maybe we need to be looking about how our transport serves the needs of the residents.
Great, thank you. Our playgrounds are dated and some of the equipment is broken. How will you champion improving play areas for our children?
Well, thanks to the lobbying of the Conservative group, especially Patcham ward councillors, they fought for funding in this year's budget for Mackey Park and Carden Park play areas to be refurbished. So now that funding was approved, that's been secured. So I will fight and join the fight to ensure those playgrounds are upgraded as soon as possible. And then we need to start looking about other playgrounds in the area to see how we can get those upgraded too.
Now, there are no youth clubs in the area, so what will you do to give teenagers something to do?
Well, Patcham and Hollingbury actually have a number of youth groups and a number of buildings where they hold their groups, such as Scouts, Guides, Brownies. They meet in the Old Boat Corner Community Centre. There are church groups such as Kids Club at the Brighton LM Church. You know, there are scout huts and other community buildings across the area. I have found one thing, that a lot of the groups are uniformed groups and they don't require council funding. And I think that's why they have been so successful. However, my Conservative colleagues have been working closely with the Trust for Developing Communities, who have produced a very useful map of all the youth activity in the area. And I will support that work wholeheartedly and promote our many and varied youth groups in the area.
Thank you. Now, what action will you take to tackle dog waste on our streets?
A lack of dog waste bins in the area is a common complaint in Brighton and Hove, especially Patcham and Hollinbury. We have many parks and green spaces which attract many dog walkers, of whom the vast majority do dispose of dog waste appropriately. It is worth noting, however, that only one fine was handed out by the council over a 6-month period last year, suggesting not enough effort was put into enforcing our city's bylaws. As a councillor, I will ask for more dog waste bins where appropriate and for better enforcement.
Thank you. And what are you going to do about the rubbish problems, the problems of missed bins collection and people dumping their rubbish in communal bins?
Yeah, missed rubbish and recycling complaints are among the most frequent. And this has come up on the doorstep and on social media, on the Patcham community site. Even my neighbours have complained about it. Other people, often people with assisted collections, report them as being missed. And they are our most vulnerable residents. So if elected, I will join my Conservative colleagues in raising this at every level of the council and do my best to ensure the residents of Patcham and Hollinbury voice is heard, so that their rubbish and recycling is collected regularly.
And finally, what will you do to make yourself known as an active part of the community?
Apart from living in the area, so I already know lots of people walking around and stuff, and the mums from my son's schools and shopkeepers, because I really believe in shopping locally, and that has been tremendously supportive because of COVID. That has supported the local groups and shopkeepers locally. It's been difficult for people to meet up because of COVID. However, I have been leafleting and canvassing the ward, getting to know as many other people as possible. I'm on the Patcham Facebook website, as I said, and have been since it started. But I look forward to visiting every community group I'm invited to. I've been talking to residents on the doorstep, you know, masks on, 6 feet apart, but they're so excited about inviting me along to their community groups, whether that's table tennis at Old Boat Corner or whatever it is. So I'm looking forward to joining up with the amazing volunteers that we have in this area, from the local action team, Neighbourhood Watch, the group U3A that look after the Patcham Peace Gardens, you know, the libraries, the Old Boat Corner Community Centre, which does so much for the community. Once groups are up and running again, I can't wait to meet them and get involved.
And Meadows, Conservative candidate for Patcham, thank you for your time.
Thank you.